Yo guys, I'm still Yellow, the Norwegian hardcore PC gamer, and I guess I want to use the old intro because it's still true. The gameplay in the background, this is just going to be me doing some quality test recordings and see how YouTube handle the footage of me just walking around. So I'm primarily just looking at the frame rate, just to test stuff out. But yeah, this video, it will be about why CSGO really got as popular as it did, and the true kind of quote-unquote market change that made it go to where it is. And I'm going to go a bit like technical in depth, and also, by the way, we are basically going 10 years back in time almost directly. Yeah, in the end part of this video, I think I want to talk a bit about my PC and the recording stuff for those who care and are interested in that. So yeah, just don't really care too much about the gameplay. Like, this is just really a test. So let's get into the topic. So with CSGO 2 being pushed out by Valve, which is kind of interesting because the game is in fact pretty outdated. I think it's to some degree a good evolution in the right direction in terms of how some games that get incredibly old, there are new technologies that could be used in cool ways if you not only had the computer horsepower to play it, unlike Tarkov, which runs horribly more or less, but you can use the new factors you have in the games in a good, cool, proper way. That takes us to the core problem that had to be solved by people like me and you who wanted to play cool games, and why we went away from one game and all flocked towards Counter-Strike. It's all about people more or less wanting to play cool, good games that satisfy a lot of different traits within themselves. And sadly, at one point in time, the games that did dominate, they just did horribly in every single way, or almost every single way. So when we then go back 10 years in time, more or less, we got two new consoles. Both of them were 8 cores. Me, myself, I landed on the PlayStation 4. Some people went for the Xbox at the time, and the cool part about them being produced was that AMD had some time earlier bought up a company called ATI, and they used to make the graphics cards that now are all AMD branded, which meant that AMD had a lot of patents and whatnot on graphics cards, but also on processors. And this meant that they could make something called an APU, which is like a more or less a hybrid of a graphics card and a processor, and they could therefore, with special technologies and using all the best tricks, create those consoles and all the consoles that came after them, and sell that in kind of sort of like a special super private deal to companies. I think they still sell small system-on-chip solutions to like casinos and whatnot, so people get that hardware there in like an incredibly cost-efficient way, but the more super strong dedicated stuff goes to the consoles. Why I'm mentioning this is because at the time, a lot of people, and me included, we enjoyed to play Call of Duty, and we enjoyed to play Battlefield. And Battlefield 3 was, by the way, it's still really cool. Like, it feels not retro at all to some degree. Like, it's just a good time to play, but it's almost impossible to play as well. But the point is that way back then, when Battlefield 4 came out, it ran like ass on the consoles. It was so bad, which is so sucky because it had a lot of the stuff like going for itself in terms of innovation, but what does that matter when the frame rate and the lag and the stuttering is incredibly bad? And the same went for Call of Duty Ghosts at the time, and all of the Call of Duty games at that kind of like transition period. The developers weren't taking this sort of stuff seriously, or they didn't get the budget, or they didn't have the knowledge, or they weren't good enough to master the new tools, or they didn't get enough time. There's so many things there that are the true reason for why those games sucked, but the end result is that you and I and a lot of other people that are older, we loathed and hated to play those games. Knowing that I paid another $60 to land on a game that would be obsolete in a year, and it played like ass, you don't get me at all to play a game for that long. And it's bad. Like, it's impossible. And also, historically, by the way, we had already, all of us, seen that all the problems in those games from, like, the Call of Duty dudes, not too many from the Battlefield, the development teams, which was DICE, yeah, at the time, we hadn't seen them address the serious issues, which also meant that you couldn't trust them improving things. This is the other gameplay, by the way. The quality should be different, but the frame rate should be better, so I'm interested to see how this not just looks, but how it plays. or rather how the YouTube digests the footage. But anyways, back on track. So now you have the proper like motivation for people to leave the games. So what game do you want to play on? Like what game do you drift towards? A lot of Let's Player people saw Counter-Strike and they saw that this game is actually kind of cool and unique. We've never seen this before. People were more or less quote-unquote virgins in regard towards playing a strategic, tactical, team-based, round-based game that was more or less just search and destroy. I played 1.6, so I was like head and heels deep into that game when I was fed up, because I had already played so much Call of Duty. I was fed up before everybody else. So I think there was like 30,000-40,000 players around that kind of number when I got into CSGO. This was very late 2013, and like the player number, it just climbed by 10k almost every single day. 10k on 10k. Suddenly we were at 110k. I was like, man, there's so many people joining this game. I was in the Nova ranks and I was playing the some of those earlier operations. I never played the first one, but the second one and out, I played all of them at the time. And the game just exploded. Not just because of how everybody kind of felt the same about the other games. So we all flocked to them. And then you had the skin bullshit that was fun and hype, and that just kept on growing because new things were added and whatnot. You played it every single day. People made videos. We had a lot of different content creators just diving deep into that, and I did it as well. However, as I already explained, I was already fairly competent on the FPS games. I also played some Titanfall, I remember, but that game kind of dried up, and it was just more of Call of Duty. I didn't want that. So those games are kind of cool and fun, but again, you want something that satisfies your competitive edge as a dude, as a man, and as like a competitive person. And yeah, that's also why people enjoyed previously to play all of the Call of Duty games. But again, you always reset every year. It's more of a race rather than something that measure your skill. There's far less factors you can practice to get good at and showcase your skill, or at least hold your own. So there are all of these things that are lacking blatantly in the Call of Duty games and the Battlefield games, which suddenly is the main core component of CSGO. Of course it would go on to become one of the more popular games on Earth, and it's staying that way because it keeps those core basic traits. But the core mechanics of the game have changed, and that's aside from how the end game nature of CSGO really isn't satisfactory at all as well. I want to dive into that to explain why CSGO should be, as a matter of fact, way more popular still, but it's not because of those reasons. I guess I should say CSGO 2 right now, because like it's being probably phased over. That's what it seems like to be, and imagine how many people you would piss off if you didn't take that into account. All the skins and whatnot being obsolete, just like the Call of Duty games. Valve will not do that. Like they probably couldn't afford it anyways, because people would just stop playing the game, I guess. But yeah, so that explains all of the millions upon millions of people playing CSGO. Now, why isn't the game even more popular? It's because of the end game facts, which is that when you're playing the game, you are forced to get good teamwork going. And I think that is the reason why some places on some maps have been designed in such a way in which you don't need to play the map in like a communication team setting anymore. For example, in the middle section, bottom mid of Mirage, if you are on T side, you can actually not boost anymore. You can just jump on that new bench and you're in. I haven't played too much CSGO over the last couple of years, but those core intricate factors are hard signifiers of how Valve are trying to put a large band-aid on the only wound they have for that game. Like, Valve haven't been able to solve this. You'd solve it in a lot of other ways that are just invisible to these game developers with god complexes, as I like to call them, because they really don't play the game as much as we do. They don't have the mindset I have as somebody who routinely always picked up the in-game leader role and were able to get everything that everybody wanted in the sense of camaraderie, teamwork, playing with great, cool people. There are whenever I say this, there are certain names that always pop up in my mind of people that I played with in CSGO. Not just matchmaking, but of course as well. Like every single time, because these people not only stood out, but them and I, we recognize that communication is key. It's more than key. It is what allows us to, instead of Valve adding a bench so you can boost through the middle window, You and I, we plan and walk over there and we just boost each other and we're good to go, dude. Like, it's not that difficult, it's not that crazy. But those barriers, some people just never stumble across the right people, which is very sucky. And some people never even think about it. And a lot of people don't take Counter-Strike seriously, and that means that they never even, it doesn't even, like, they never consider playing the game in a, like, with a team mentality. And so the end result is always the same, and it is that people just stop playing. They stop at Global Elite or Supreme or Legendary Eagle Master. It doesn't really matter what rank. Or they do what I did, which is to jump over to face it, but it's so annoying to grind, or your connection isn't super good, or somebody are lagging, or it just feels a little bit sluggish, even though it is supposed to be better, and the end result is the same. It's so annoying. And that's aside from the hard, really sad fact that there are so many people with huge egos that all want to become the damn very best person playing CSGO on Earth. So they ignore almost every single actual proper social kind of cue that you should have when you play, and they just go out and do the most stupid stuff. So you need to then, if you want to try and win even more, start to sacrifice yourself by putting you in stupid positions, but the game just fizzle out because everybody will just rush around and do stupid stuff anyways. At Face It rank 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it's absolutely horrible. Like, it's so insanely horrible. No team cohesion, no nothing. Those factors, and it feels like a simple list, but the repercussions when you are there in how you experience them are so brutally hard. It's such a drag to play. So Valve not having invested a proper path forward towards like having more proper ranks so that you can just play past global still with the same proper matchmaking system, and the player pool is larger, so the ping is not bad. Like, it's actually more stable because more people stay playing the core game. You don't have to necessarily pay, or actually a lot of people would pay anyways, but that's not the point. Like, you wouldn't have to fraction out how you keep on advancing, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Valve, they really just Counter-Strike 2 is going to be a great step in the new direction, or rather the next step in the current direction that you want to take for your game to succeed even more, and also to stay up to date. But these things, they just aren't going away, and until they go away, CSGO, it's already very popular. It will probably keep on getting more popular, but I know so many people on my friend list, and there are so many. We don't play CSGO anymore. And the fun fact as well is that like 90 to 95% of everybody on my friend list, I added them because of CSGO. And now almost nobody plays CSGO. That's like an insanely huge demographic amount of people, interest. Of course, everybody gets older. We get adult lives. We play all the games because they are fun. But all of those other factors, they are hard tells also as well of like, yeah, there isn't too much more to do here aside from how you did do well and you had a good time and you were able to improve yourself in a lot of different ways. So take this for what you will, but that is the hard explanation for why there was this popularity change in how games were at the time. This is about like 2013 and outwards, and why everybody swapped over, changed over, everything changed. And of course, we had a great time. A lot of cool people met each other and all that sort of stuff. But that's the story of that sort of stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Now let's talk a little bit about the footage here. Because there isn't too much to explain other than that, like, Tarkov is you could almost call it like a hybrid simulator, military simulator game. It's pretty fun in the sense of how you have your equipment, gear. It's more or less round-based, so it feels a lot like a Battle Royale game, but it's not, because if you die, you lose all the gear that you either find or you take with you. You are always trying to survive or quote-unquote escape from Tarkov. So I just figured it would be cool to have some gameplay of it, but I wanted to test out how bad it was to record and play on the same system, because it's not very optimized. It's running on a super modified Unity engine, which does work, but with my PC, which isn't super modern for today's standard, it's running iffy. So the first gameplay were lossless, trying to record at 60 FPS, but it didn't work. The second was NVEC, I think, with my graphics card. I got the Vega 64 with a Morpheus 2 cooler on it. It runs more or less like a 1080 Ti card, but I did overclock it even more, so Yeah, it's completely okay. I think the performance is approximately that of a 3060 graphics card today from Nvidia, but regardless, like, it just doesn't really record super well. But hopefully it doesn't really look too bad, because I think one of the modes does work. And so there is that. By the way, my CPU is the 3800X, which, like, it runs completely fine. Like, most games will run good or fine at like 1080p, 240 hertz monitor. Then you turn down all the settings. You have the esports standard, which is what I just mentioned. You should be good to go. But yeah, this game is just difficult to run, so we'll see what I can do. I've probably done all the tricks to make it work and run well, so yeah, we'll see. But that's really it for this video. Not too much more to say other than that there will be other interesting videos in the future. Here are two related videos if you want to take a look at those. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you have any comments, I'll probably reply to them, because this channel is considered small nowadays. So there is that. I believe in you. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day, and don't get beastified when you play.